Welcome, everyone, to the
Woo!
final Accademia Giallo of 2024. I can't believe
Wow.
the year is almost over. It's crazy. And we've done 6 episodes as or right about there. We also did a special
Yeah.
where we talked to Sergio Martino at the beginning of the year. That was
Mm.
quite memorable still. Yeah, we're
I'm
gonna
even
finish.
wearing my January Giallo shirt from earlier.
Oh, yeah. Which they're doing again at the Music Box.
Yeah. Yep.
Have they announced the lineup yet? I'm so far behind.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm actually. I think Mr. Kitley purchased.
I was just going to say,
tickets.
if you announce, if you go swing by Kitley's Crypt, you'll see the lineup.
They're it's Blood and Black Lace, The Fourth Victim, Corpse Mania, and then your Vice is a locked room and only I have the key.
Yep.
So
It's
good.
a good lineup. Good lineup.
Yes.
Have they announced any special guests yet?
Not yet.
Not
Brian
yet.
Martinez. Brian Martinez will be there.
Yes.
Well, I'll be sure and link all that information below, and I'm going to be checking it out as well because that's pretty incredible. So yeah, the great things to look
And
forward to in the new year.
if the rumored guest does happen to show up, it will be mind blowing. Just saying.
Is there a rumored guest?
Well, just from talks.
But let's not
No.
expand upon what a rumor might be.
Well, rumor is something that people say might happen, but is not being confirmed.
That's right. It's also an album by Fleetwood Mac.
But it also
That's
alludes
rumors.
that let's just entice people with it. It's a rumor and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Well,
and
regardless,
amazing.
folks, if you're fans of this show, that I assume that means you're fans of Giallo. So you should definitely check out the Chicago institution that is the Music Box Theater. They have a Giallo January Film Festival in January, and they showcase Giallo, and sometimes they bring in very special, very cool guests. So yeah, I'll have info to Kitley's blog on that below, and also I assume there's a tickets page or something for the Music Box, so I'll put that up down there. But right now, we're not talking about the future. Wait, we are talking about the future because we're talking about Neo Giallo. What is Neo Giallo? I don't know. I can only guess that it is Giallo that was made more recently than the heyday of the 60s and 70s and possibly even into the 80s. But yeah, we're talking about Francesca, a film by Luciano Onetti. Came out in 2015 or 2017, depending on what website you're looking at. I don't know. I get confused with these things. They have more years than titles. But yeah, I was skeptical because I think it was last year we talked about one of these more recent Gialli. I don't remember what it was. I just
Strange Color of Your Body's Tears.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me. Now I have permission to forget again. So yeah, I was skeptical, but I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag. I loved Francesca. I was shocked by the last few seconds of the movie, possibly because I broke up my viewing as I'm often forced to do. I possibly didn't make some connections that might have led to the obvious conclusion of what was going to happen in those final few seconds. But I was thinking back on it, I'm like, no, that did seem very out of left field.
Yeah.
And we'll get into all of that once we put up the spoilers. But before we do that, let's talk to our fearsome faculty. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have AC, aka Aaron Christensen of Horror 101 with Dr. AC. We have John Kitley of Kitley's Crypt, who's going to lead us down the path to January Giallo with his blog info down below. And we have Bryan Martinez of the Giallo Room. And we also have, joining us now, we have Jonas Hallberg.
Yay!
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Jonas.
Cheers,
Or good
Jonas.
afternoon as it stands. But
I figure, where are you, Jonas? You can respond, at your leisure, but I think you're overseas, if I'm not mistaken.
he's online. Well, I would assume he's overseas because I don't think there's any place in America where it's.
Well, that's what I
evening
meant.
yet.
I meant specifically, where are you?
Oh, okay.
Jonas. Anyway, yes, no, this was now your complaints. I'll say complaints. Your complaints about Strange Color of Your Body's Tears. Sweden. Thank you, Jonas. Our Strange Color of Your Body's Tears. You had issues with it, which is understandable because I don't think it is a straightforward Neo Giallo. I think it is a formal experiment using Gialli motifs as opposed to being a straightforward story. And what I really like about Francesca is that it is very much, here is a Giallo that was produced, as you say, more recently, not in the 70s. And yet it calls upon all the tropes, and it really does a great job of kind of recreating the feel and the aesthetics of the 70s, which I love it. I when you guys mentioned this, I was like, that's right. I haven't seen this in forever. I'd only seen it the one time before, but it was a real pleasure to go back to.
Well, oh yeah, Brian.
I just want to chime in and just kind of linger on AC's points there.
Whoa.
Well, no, just
Consent,
because,
man, consent.
I want to linger on you, Aaron. No, but it's like back when I first discovered this film, it was kind of the heyday of neo Giallo, which to my definition is just, basically Giallo masturbation. If there's no other term that I could think of, it would be that. It's just everything that's great about Giallo is usually in this little subculture called neo Giallo, which is like, it's a homage, it's a flavor, it's so tough to nail down. And Francesca often gets grouped into that particular thing, along with, things like Strange Color of Your Body's Tears and whatnot. But I will say the Onetti's first offering, Sono Profondo, which I believe is Deep Sleep, it's more akin to that kind of like, just they love the genre, and it's just that like bombastic, nonsensical, no narrative, like it's just like a straight up, orgasm orgy of like Giallo elements, So looking at Francesca feels more like, and I wrote this in a review freaking years ago, whatever. It just feels like an unearthed, no pun intended, because I believe it was released by Unearthed. But it feels like an unearthed Giallo that somebody discovered that was like a relic from the 70s.
Yeah, just hanging out in some vault somewhere that never got released.
And that's the charm of it for me. It just feels like these people that really adore this genre made this film feeling like it should be placed within the golden era of Giallo. So,
And I think that's the key for me. I don't think I've seen other examples of neo Giallo, but listening to the way you describe it, it sounds like a bunch of kind of modern day or modern-ish Giallo acolytes who really, as you mentioned, love the source material, want to make their own thing, but they're dealing mostly in aesthetics.
Yes.
Like we're going to have probably the J&B Scotch. We're going to have, black gloves and kills and possibly
my guy
nudity,
is like reading a freaking Mondadori,
he actually pulls out a Giallo.
Yeah. So it's like, it's so steeped in that stuff. So,
but that's the interesting thing to me. What I look for in Giallo, and this has got me in trouble several times, both as a viewer and also as a panelist on my own show, is the story. I love the mystery. I love the story. I don't like it when things don't hang together. So, and again, not having seen the other films, I can only assume, but watching something that is all about aesthetics and paying homage to something without really getting at the heart of like, oh, this is a mystery. There's something to solve. There's someone in danger, and really getting intricate and kind of loopy and, pretzely with your logic. That's kind of the big miss. Like take away all those elements and focus on the story as far as I'm concerned. Now, I will say there's a cartoonish amount of J&B Scotch in Francesca.
I mean, why not?
Before I go further, I need to point this out. AC, I talked to you about this earlier, but we did a show for Horror 101 with Dr. AC that I'm surprised you're actually going to release because of my performance, my embarrassment on that show. Talking Silent Night, Deadly Night, that movie is in fact the Giallo, because
that's right.
At the holiday party in the toy store, what are they drinking? J&B Scotch.
Of course.
Case closed. Look for that episode coming up, or don't, because AC, I'm sure you're going to come to your senses. And at least cut me out.
There's some editing going to be done. It'll be fine.
Some editing.
Okay, yes. The episode that I mysteriously appeared on and did not appear on. It'll be Schrodinger's podcast. But anyhow.
That's funny.
So let's talk about Francesca. What is this movie? Kitley, you have not chimed in yet, so I'm going to bestow the honor of summarizing Francesca to you.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Well, first of all, let me say that I don't remember how I came about this, but if you were to pass this film off to someone and say that it is a lost Giallo film from the 70s, they would not know.
Right.
They would not be able to go, no, this was made last year. It the way it looks and feels is just incredible. The story opens with a very twisted stabbing by a young girl to her infant child, not her child, her sibling, which almost at first it makes you think that it's a doll,
Right.
but because of the crying, it's not. And then years later, a girl is killed, very Giallo-esque, murdered. And so it's a police investigation stemming from that has ties to what we've seen in the opening. And as it continues, the deaths at first don't seem connected, but then they find out they are connected, but not connected in the way that it first leads you to believe, which I think was brilliantly done. So it has all the elements of it's a police procedural. It has the atmosphere, it has the look, the grain, obviously the J&B, and the music. The music
the music's great.
adds perfectly to it.
And it's all original.
And what I would say this is one of those films that you watch it and it'll blow you away.
Yeah.
Then you find out how it was made. It'll blow you away again, because it's so impressive that it was basically the two brothers doing everything behind the camera, lighting, camera work, music, everything.
Yeah, Luciano scored the whole movie. Like of the two brothers, he's the one that directed it. He's the one that's more into music and whatnot. So this is all him, just all these seriously, like say what everything that John said. It's like, it's incredible. It's like, it feels like, oh my God, this movie is from the 70s. Yeah. Everything's pitch perfect, you know?
Well, and they do such a great job of using those older pieces of technology, like a slide machine.
Oh my God.
The reel-to-reel tape recorder, all
the slide machine,
all the old phones.
Fetish.
Oh man, exactly. Like, get up close and personal with the slides.
Although, real quick, not black gloves.
That's right. No, that's right.
But I will say the black, the red leather gloves with the red coat with the giant black buttons. I mean, that is like, people say, oh, it's iconic. This feels like an iconic image that is going to make some kind of an impression. I don't know if it has, because it's been 10 years, but I watched that and it's striking. I do want to go back to that opening. We meet the little girl, Francesca. First, she's stabbing a bird, a bird carcass, which we don't know if she's actually killed this bird, if she happened upon it or whatever, but she's poking it relentlessly. And then she goes to her siblings' room or finds the carriage that the baby's in, and we see the stab into the carriage. And then mom walks in, and this is what really grabbed me, is the opening credits. Is the credits are on the screen, but the audio is the mother screaming in terror, the baby screaming because it's just been gouged in somewhere, probably the eye, because we see a quick cut of a baby doll with its eye, skewer poking out its eye. The score, and then the girl Francesca laughing and giggling, and it's this nightmare oral soup. AURAL, you pervert, Bryan. I see what you're doing there. It's a hell of a way to hook someone. You don't know me. I'm afraid I do.
I was going to say, he was talking all orgasms and orgies, and I'm like, wow, this got very steamy all of a sudden.
I'm very passionate about this film.
And I can see why. Now, the one thing I will say, and I was annoyed by this. You guys say this feels like an unearthed film from the 70s, and I agree. But I didn't agree right away, because when I first turned this on, I watched it on Plex and then Tubi, because I had to switch because there was some kind of a difficulty. I was like, okay, this is really blown out. And it feels like, if anybody here uses Photoshop, it feels like the posterized setting on Photoshop, where it makes everything kind of, very stark and almost impressionistic, but in motion. And I was like, okay, they're going for a look. I get it. It's Neo Giallo. But then I had to again stop, and I came back to a couple hours later, and for whatever happened, but subconsciously I had time to stew on it. I sat down, I'm like, oh, this movie looks like it was done in the 70s. Wow, this is really cool.
Yep.
One of
And
the reasons,
I held that all the way through the end. Sorry, go ahead, John.
no, I was just going to say one of the reasons, possibly, and I'm guessing here, but if you were watching Giallo in the 70s or in the 80s with video, because of the poor release prints or the poor transfers on VHS, a lot of them look like this because they were never properly remastered. They were just from an old crappy 35 millimeter print to VHS without any sort of cleaning, and that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. Feels
And
very intentional in that regard.
Yes.
Like it feels like you have literally unearthed a 35 millimeter print. Somebody slapped it onto a disc, and this is what you're watching.
I think that goes a long way in what you were talking about, AC. It didn't strike me until very far into the movie that there are no cell phones. I mean, this feels like somehow it feels like it takes place in modern day, but also all of this technology happens to be, 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
And I can't quite describe what that is. Is that a genre or a film technique? I'm not sure, but I'm all here for it. Yeah, the one thing I think I got really confused by is there is a coin collector.
Brian's going to explode. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I don't want to chime in, like, sounding
you
like,
do.
oh,
Yes,
And I'll keep talking. No,
That's
what?
why
Go
you
ahead,
had your finger up.
well, because like you know, like it's amazing. Yes, like the movie feels this way and it looks this way or whatever. But I think we were mentioning before we went on live or whatever that back in my days of Film Deviant and all that, I reviewed this movie and I talked like personally to these the two brothers, Nicholas and Luciano. And they just like, we had conversations. I showed them my short film at the time, and we were like, this is gonna sound stupid, but like there was a time where we were thinking about doing a Giallo, whatchamacallit, those movies with like
Anthology.
Anthology, thank you.
That
Like
was
a Giallo.
good, John. I want you for my password.
When he said
It's 'cause
whatchamacallit, I thought it was a Giallo candy bar. So that's where I went.
No, but like we were talking about that stuff, and we were just like, it was awesome. But anyway, he revealed certain methods, in terms of making this movie, and he said that he found this really old camera, and he filmed most of the movie with that camera, and then so when it came time to editing, it just looked washed out, and it was like the perfect look. So they kept on filming, the movie with this one camera or whatever. And they used a lot of HD stuff for like the really beautiful looking shots of like the bird flying or whatever. But like it was mostly like, they were thinking, how could we utilize this camera? Because they've already been into making films at this time and whatnot. And then, they were really into Italian, aesthetics and whatnot, and Italian music and Italian culture. And then that led them into Italian cinema. So they were like, the 70s, the movies from the 70s, it looks just like this stuff or whatever. So I'm sorry. But
let me ask you real quick. I want to ask, do you know how old the Onettis are? Like, are they, or when they made the movie 10 years ago?
They're in their 20s, I would say, like late 20s, 30s.
Because it occurs to me like this is how you do that right. I mean, this is
kind
of contemporaneous with like Stranger Things, which was, if I remember correctly, made by people who weren't sort of around in the 1980s, who would not have been able to appreciate the stuff as it was. So they kind of came up with this. Oh, this is what we think 1980s culture is. Everyone's got the same posters and video games and stuff lining their rooms when that stuff was not necessarily a thing back then. This film, though, it shows that even these young students of the genre took it seriously and really tried to understand what made it work and made it tick. Now, I'm only going based on this one film, but it feels like, again, a Sergio Martino, a lost film or something like that, a true person who was swimming in these waters back when it was a thing, rather than someone who picked it up and just made it a nostalgia piece.
And that's what they were aiming for. They weren't necessarily like, yes, it's a narrative, it's a story, right? Like it's actually a cohesive mystery.
Yeah.
And it's got great, I would say, great performances within that really elevate what this film is. But like, it's also the heart of it is people that really love Italian Giallo film and really love, not necessarily like, like what I mentioned earlier about the genre masturbation bit of it or whatever. I love that myself. Like I can, I love Giallo masturbation like the best of them. You know what I'm saying? You could use
Is
that
that
as your
when you
quote.
do it with a leather glove?
And Jello,
but
you know.
but it's stuff like this that feels like, okay, it's it's like what the student learned, but what they're taking it and using it for. Like this movie feels that way for me.
Well, there's a things. So my metaphor was that like all of these Italian directors, if you're making a marinara sauce, you're using the same ingredients,
Oh, for
tomatoes,
sure. Yep.
and each one of them adds a little bit more or less of the same ingredients, and then they
Mhm.
throw in something else, something
Right.
that makes it,
Right.
marinara alla Martino.
Right.
And what the Onettis have done is they've kind of distilled that. They're like,
Mhm.
okay, here's the perfect recipe. And we're gonna go heavier on the tomatoes, we're gonna go heavier on the onions, heavier on the garlic, so that you really feel all of that kind of slapping you in the face.
Oh,
But it's
dude,
still,
stop. Slow down, dude. Because
but
I'm
it,
over here and I'm like, ugh.
but it still feels like a marinara sauce. It still
Uh,
feels like, okay, that is what I expect a marinara sauce to taste like,
right.
but there's something that's kind of amplified about all of it. And I just really I appreciate that because it doesn't, Strange Color of Your Body's Tears is very much about that distillation, but then
Mhm.
heightened. And that's what they're focusing on. Yes, there's ostensibly a plot,
Mhm.
but here the plot is great. And there's a lot of like,
Yep.
plot twists and red
Yep.
herrings.
And it's done so right too,
That's what I mean. Like the plot itself is well served, and
Yeah.
there's also that kind of fetishizing of the Gialli elements. And I
Right.
just think I like it's a great synthesis of that. I know there are other Neo Giallos that we can name check that also do it right.
Mhm.
What's there's a French one, the guy with the big glove, the glove hand. Um, Shoot, I think you name checked it in one of our emails, but anyway, I'll come back around to that. But that one, they also do it right, where it doesn't become just about, hey, look how many J&B bottles I can put into a frame.
Right.
It's like, no, there's actually a story here, and the aesthetics are purely that they're aesthetics in service of the plot.
Absolutely.
I will say there was one shot of a J&B bottle sitting on someone's desk, and it was right in front of a lamp, and the shade was kind of hanging over it. And I had to do a double take and like, wait a second, is there a J&B lamp out there? I need to have it, but unfortunately, it's not. I checked on
That's just the
eBay.
way the shot was done. It
Yeah,
didn't
but
work.
anyone out there, if you're a horror convention artisan, make that happen. I'll buy one off you. But no, I mean, as far as the story goes, once we get past those opening credits, we meet our first victim, who's kind of bound to a chair, and our killer comes in the red coat with the red gloves and skewers her through the mouth, and not just once, but a couple of times before she's dead. And I'll say, fortunately, we find out soon after that she was, much like I think all the victims in this movie, had done some kind of a horrible sin, or what the killer had judged to be a horrible sin, was being punished for it. It
Mhm.
wasn't just a random person being picked up off the street and tortured. For some reason, when that being the first, or I guess technically the second scene of the film, I thought, okay, am I in for just like torture porn with a kind of gialli aesthetic on it? And again, that with the what I'll call the posterized kind of aesthetic, I was like, this is not off to a great start, even though I did love the opening credits. But as we get further into it, and I'm thinking, okay, this is sort of like Saw. You've got the mysterious kind of like phone calls and voiceovers. You got the creepy doll that shows up at all the crime scenes. But then I'm like, well, we also had this in Profondo Rosso. So it's, if anything, Saw was kind of ripping off some of these aesthetics and ideas. So I had to reset my brain a couple of times watching this, thinking, okay, these guys are paying homage to something, but they're also charting their own path. So I turn off your brain. I can't believe I said this to myself. Just go with it. And fortunately, I was engaged intellectually and also viscerally throughout the film. My one conundrum, and this is what I was starting to say, Bryan, beforehand. There's a coin collector who provides coins to our killer through mail correspondence. The killer places coins on the eyes of the victims, leaves it for the cops because there's this whole Dante's Inferno allegory of, you know, the sins being following the victims into the underworld, and the coins of the passage through Styx or something. At one point, the killer orders another set of coins, and we see the coin collector dropping a couple of these coins from his collection into a regular envelope and mailing them off. I'm sorry, I don't get that. Help me out there, AC.
I don't know that he was mailing them off. I think it was putting them in the. I think there's something along the lines of putting them in the usual, the usual delivery. Send them to the usual address.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't know that the person was actually putting them in the mail, but it was going to be sent to that address.
Yeah.
That was
how I was. Not through the mail. As I'm saying, like a courier or whomever would go and drop it off, because I wouldn't trust that to the mail.
I wouldn't trust that with a courier either. Like, hey, what are these coins rattling around here? No, I mean,
it's not your job as a courier to question what's in the package. You're supposed to send
unless
it.
It looks like free money. Sorry.
Okay. I see so you're just, casting your morals against everybody else's.
You're assuming I have them. No, what? Anyway, no, I did love that.
Did John have something to add to that, or
I don't know. John, did you have something to add to that?
I don't know. I thought I saw John's finger waving or something.
That was pointing at you.
He was affirming what you were saying.
Yeah, I said that we can't trust Ian.
Yeah, and also, John, don't use the word firm in this conversation, because we see what's going on in that square over there.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I mean, but I love the lore and incorporating Dante's Inferno. We see a lot of those illustrations and passages, and we hear the passages being read. We've got these great, ransom note style mysterious letters. The meticulousness of the killer. We mentioned the slides. We mentioned that there's like a kind of a scale model of the town with vehicles and the streets and everything. This is almost ADHD fetish porn, because you're seeing the killer never touches anything without the gloves, and even when they have the gloves on, they're using tweezers to like pick up the individual letters that have been dipped in glue or whatever and apply them to the sheets. It's eerie, it's creepy, because you don't know who this person is, what's going on, but you know that they have gone completely around the bend, and it has something to do with this girl Francesca. So there is an unreliable narrator, or two or three in this movie. There's a wheelchair-bound man who was Francesca's father, who, wait one second, because we're getting deep into it here. I gotta turn this on.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. I was waiting.
Here it comes.
I didn't want to talk about the very end and after that and all that stuff,
but
waiting for this
right. Francesca's father is confined to a wheelchair, and his story is that Francesca was home with him one day, and someone a masked person broke into their house, stabbed him in the spine, thus rendering him paraplegic, and then kidnapped the daughter. And that was the whole story from 15 years earlier or whatever it was, that they never found the body. They never, no whereabouts. It was just a home invasion, pure and simple, and a kidnapping, a complete tragedy. At the end of the movie, we find out what really happened. And I think it was all through the lead detective going into that house and finding bodies kind of piled up of the people that he suspected of committing these crimes. And as he's walk in, he's piecing it all together, kind of usual suspect style, but we get the benefit of seeing the flashbacks. One of the things we see is Francesca's corpse in a bed next to a shovel. And, tell me, did Onetti's, did Luciano build that corpse too? I'm pretty sure he did, based on everything you've told me.
Yeah.
I think, well, is it Nicholas? Nicholas, I think, was special effects and the production design
Right.
and
But that's the thing. Like, Nicholas, when I talked to these two individuals, they were both great, but you could totally tell the flavor. Like, whenever I talked to Luciano, he was more artsy. He was more like, just like into his music, and we were supposed to like we were planning one day, like if they were ever to make it out to Chicago or whatever, that I'd smoke a blunt with them and play guitar with them and stuff. Like they just seemed really cool like that. And then Nicholas, I always thought like I called him Nico. He was more like the guy that was in charge of the financials and scheduling, and like whenever I had to like schedule an interview with these guys for Film Deviant at the time, and then later on for the Giallo Room, I went through Nicholas all the time. I went through Nico. So it was interesting, their dynamic. So when you think about the making of this film, of course, like I think Nico's more into that technical side of it, you know what I mean? So he was more into like creating the visuals and whatnot. Whereas Luciano had this vision for it, like this, like he was into the musicality of just the scene. That's why like talking to him like about the bird, like in the credits in the beginning, he was like, man, that shit looks so cool, like when I was high or whatever. And I was like, that's rad. Like it speaks to the film, and I just think that
I think it's a blanket statement though, that like everything looks a little cooler when you're high. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, but here's I guess my question would be, did the artist say, hey, I want to have this corpse on a bed with a shovel, and then the detail-oriented person made that happen?
That's probably
by contracting someone or doing it themselves. But it would seem to me that the artist would be the person to actually create that effect or that corpse. I'm trying to figure out where that distinction is, if there even is one, or maybe they collaborate on it. The point is, it was a beautiful looking, disturbing corpse that looked like a 15-year-old rotted girl that had been dug up out of the garden. Right. My only question, and not question, but again, a nitpick, but I'll let it go, because no movie, or I should say very few movies, get this right. When you walk into a house or into a room specifically, there's a 15-year-old rotted corpse in the bed. You don't just go in there and be like, you're gonna be throwing up or revulsed or something because of the smell alone.
A corpse 15 years in the grave isn't going to smell. It's already been decayed and rotted. It ain't, at least from my experiences.
I was going to say,
from John's experience,
from the multitude of 15-year-old corpses I've dug up.
Well,
everything would have been rotted and done by then.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, because we all know that rotted flesh does not smell after a while. No, but I will say that is my other complaint, is the body looked very moist. I don't know if they spritzed it down before laying it on the bed, but
I mean, maybe they had a light rain the day previous, or something.
Or maybe the previous person had thrown up on it. You don't know.
Yeah. Who knows?
What are we even talking about here? All right, so I guess.
Can I, Ian?
Yeah, please.
So kind of going back to the idea of the fetishizing of the Giallo elements, like we get a lot of these like extreme close-ups of objects, and there's something about kind of that attention. It's a specific attention to detail that I think it just kind of heightens what the Onettis are doing. It's like it's highlighting it, but it also is a callback to things like Argento, where you have the opening of Deep Red and things like that, where it's all about that hyper super close up. But I also like the fact that like there's a whole like musicality where we're kind of almost fetishizing the piano keys and the people who play piano. Like there's a whole pianist motif that runs through this, and to the point that we have a pianist who was having an affair with somebody, and then he is going to make a triumphant comeback, and he gets killed, and then his girlfriend gets killed. And it's like, yeah, it all goes back to Francesca doesn't want to play piano, and she doesn't want anybody else to play piano either. Because for the longest amount of time, again, spoilers, we're thinking Francesca is the murderer. that's exacting revenge on people.
Mhm.
Aren't we?
You just, well, no, I mean, that's going to be something for a second viewing. I hadn't even thought about that. I always assumed
Who
that
do
it
you
was,
think the killer was, Ian?
I think it was
Pierre Delay,
Billy.
wasn't it?
No, I think it was Billy. Yeah. No, sorry. That's an in joke for something that most people will never see. Anyway, I actually did want to talk to you guys about that because at the end of it, I was kind of, and this is the point where the brain has been turned off. Yet, I was emotionally and somewhat intellectually engaged throughout that wall being put up, where it almost didn't matter to me the mechanics of who was the killer or how it was happening. Because the detective, and we're jumping way forward, but I do want to actually, rewind the tape of it because you mentioned the piano player. That strangely enough reminded me of Silent Night, Deadly Night as well, with our sheriff's deputy at the end going down into that little shed in the churchyard and exploring. I think he's going to get it down there, and it's an extended sequence full of suspense, and he gets back upstairs, and then all of a sudden, then he gets it when he gets to quote unquote safety. Our piano player is practicing on the stage. He hears something wherever he goes backstage, and then he kind of winds his way out, and he's like, "Oh, there was nothing there." And then the Onettis pull an Exorcist 3 on us all of a sudden, and the killer just like runs out from off stage and like beautiful stuff. Okay. The detective at the end goes to the house and he walks in, and the first thing he sees is the mother hanging in the bathroom. Is that right? Was that the
I
first?
can't remember the sequence, but
yeah, she's hanging.
Okay.
Like,
Right. And she's dead. And I was just waiting for that trope of like, she's hanging, but she's actually, alive, and just making it look like, to fool him into
the first it's the doll, right? Like, the doll's like on the chair or something.
Probably that doll's everywhere. Mommy, I want you to come play with me. But then the detective finds the body in the bathroom and then kind of like backs out and then goes to the living room and sees in the wheelchair is the body with the coat, the red leather coat.
Oh, that's right.
But it's just a mannequin. Yeah.
Right. It turns out to be a mannequin. Then he looks over and there is our paraplegic father dressed up as the wife who we've suspected. Because I suspected that she was the killer the entire time. Wait for it. Take a drink, everybody. The Mrs. Voorhees situation from Friday the 13th. But no, it turns out he's kind of Norman Batesing it, just like dressed up as the killer. And the detective is in such shock that he's like about to say something. And this is what completely put this over the top for me. It's in the Pantheon.
Oh yeah.
The spike, the needle, whatever, the probe that has been the primary instrument of death throughout this movie comes jutting out from his mouth, and then it retracts, and you see behind him a man who's missing an eye or has a deformed eye, and you're like, oh my god, that's Francesca's brother.
Yep. Yep.
And then the policeman's body falls to the floor, and we're done. There's no like.
Did you stick around for after the credits?
No,
I did.
Oh boy.
All right, what I missed?
It's on there. It's on Tubi.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy it.
No, guys, we're in spoiler territory. You got to just tell me.
It depends on what your form of enjoyment is.
Yeah. Well, I was like, because I saw the running time. There's the running time. There's like another 3 minutes left of the movie, and I was like, well, we're at the end of the credits. What's going on here? And you get to see Bryan
just balls out, like in your face, Giallo fetishism, but also disturbing and very
it's almost like a coming attraction for their next feature kind of thing. Like it's like a it's not necessarily, but it's not set up like a trailer. It's just kind of like some scene, like here's a sneak preview of what might be coming next from the Onettis. That's how it felt to me.
Although Abracadabra is what came after this or whatever, I believe.
Right. I'm just saying, like, that's how it feels in terms of being where it falls as a post-credits stinger.
Like Nick Fury going to enlist the Avengers.
There you go.
So I'm totally confused. Does it have anything to do with the movie, or
No.
is it just okay? So it's like a movie.
I don't-
I mean,
Does
I took it like this. I took it to mean that the killer's still out there doing,
Okay,
basically,
we're gonna leave this
brother.
alone because now we're getting into Black Christmas
Because
territory.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that it was still that it was a continuation. I just thought it was like, and you'll stay tuned. Come back for more.
I'm gonna go check this out. This post credit sequence
should do it
I just
right
assumed it
now.
was all.
You should do it live.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll pull it up. That'll be great for the copyright.
Do you
together.
now, so I remembered what the movie was, the French one. Brian, you've seen Last Caress, right?
Oh yes, that's the one that.
Okay, that's the one I was
right.
trying to remember, and I finally remembered it.
Yeah.
And this set is involved a killer with a giant hand.
He's got like a
Like a.
claw hand.
It's almost like remember what the hell?
Wolverine.
No. The.
But it's
The-
French. It's not Italian. That's the other thing.
I
Is
don't-
that it's
I'll remember it.
you
Like,
keep
it'll pop
you
into my
keep.
head.
I'll keep
Oh, was
talking
it-
while you're.
There was in Blood
it
and Black
was-
Lace. One had one, and Creature with the Blue Hand had the spike
Yep.
glove.
Yep.
No, but it's the
Those-
one from. It's like a freaking gauntlet thingy.
Yeah, but it's got a little
that
thing
goes
like in the front,
this.
right? It's got a little.
Yeah,
like
but what
stabby
the
thing.
hell?
Y'all are thinking of
Um,
Mr. Pruitt from Adventures in Babysitting. Okay, I
Can
got
we
it.
talk about?
The killer walks at midnight.
There we go.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
Now,
rough.
What
boom,
what
like it
what
keeps
this
on
mo-
getting
what
punched in.
Francesca is circling back to this one. What Francesca isn't is the editor, which is Astron 6's.
Ooh,
kind of
we
like-
should have paired that with this one.
Well, I was thinking we should definitely talk about it, if not actually
Yes.
watch it, because it
that was
is
hilarious.
it is a parody as opposed to an homage. Like it's a parody of.
But it's a good
Giallo.
parody, though.
But it's an excellent parody,
respectful,
and
yeah.
people who are steeped in Italian horror and Gialli, they'll get a kick out of it. And the Astron 6 guys, Stephen Kostansky among them, they're just worth following as filmmakers anyway. So if that becomes your introduction, I think that's what I was thinking. Like if the Onettis is what helps get you into Giallo and helps start you looking back, I think Astron 6 does the same kind of thing where it's like,
Yeah.
here's an homage to a thing. You might want to know what we're homaging. So start looking back, folks.
Right.
I just love the idea of a Giallo parody. I think if the months line up, we'll have to talk about it as our April episode. That
Ah.
sounds fun.
Yeah.
But,
Definitely, actually.
we've got some more comments.
Good.
Jonas is weighing in. Did you guys like America? Fuck yeah. Oh, there's a movie called. Okay. Do you guys like?
I don't know
Oh, wait.
America.
Amer.
We do like. Well, one of us likes Amer. Do we like Amer?
I like Amer.
Yeah, I like Amer.
I don't know.
Amer's great.
It's by the folks who did Strange Color Your Body's
Yeah.
Tears. So I don't know if you've seen
They're
that,
French.
Ian. I don't know if you would like it, to be honest.
I just felt like
it's-
a wave of sickness poured over me when you said
Amer is more narrative based.
Yeah.
you
And
know,
Jonas, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say like I love Strange Color of Your Body's Tears because I love everything Giallo. So for me, it makes sense,
Yeah.
But-
I did a show, Jonas, over at Horror 101 where we paired Blood and Black Lace and Amer.
Mhm.
And so check that
Yeah,
out.
great episode.
And it was a fun kind of like watching the classics and then watching them kind of pay homage to it.
Yeah.
I will link that down below as well. I'm going to be link happy. Petty, Penato Petty, our Argentinian superfan, joins us on a Sunday.
These
Welcome, sir.
Italians.
Yeah, happy Sunday. These Italians are sick. I love it. It seems like a movie that keeps you awake at night.
Oh yeah.
I don't think this is going to give me nightmares, but I'm definitely going to be thinking about Francesca for a long time, especially.
Well, also just your viewing habits. Usually you're watching these late at night.
No, I'm watching
Right,
them early in
right.
the morning. I go to sleep before the night really even begins, and I get up,
But like
Not really.
speaking of nightmares, because I think that's what he's referencing here or whatever. But that scene where Vittorio, I believe his name is, he's having that nightmare
Yeah.
where he's like he looks down and his legs
Oh,
are
the
sticks.
legs.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like that just got me. That was just like, holy shit, this guy is thinking on a deeper level in terms of like writing this particular nightmare or whatever, So it's like it's that kind of stuff that I feel is very detail oriented with this film. That they think extra about stuff like that.
Well, it's also it's striking too because those nightmare visuals are so well thought out and so imaginative. You've got the thing kind of melding into each other. I'd have to watch it again because it does kind of blend in. And as a first time viewer, I'm mostly trying to figure out how this all fits into the grander narrative. One of my learning here, rather than like being able to recall specific, visuals, except mostly things involving dolls. But, you're right, because in addition to finding out that, our father's character is not wheelchair bound, we find out the truth of what happened with that home invasion. It was right after Francesca had stabbed her brother. We assume as the audience that the baby is like probably going to die because everyone else who meets the fate of that sticker does. But he confronts Francesca, who's, I don't know, she's like 8-9 years old, if that. And he strangles her to death.
I'm sorry, with the worst fake strangle on film.
I feel like it was somebody's mom, right? Like, that agreed to play her.
I'm like, just do it and then let go. It's like, you don't have to actually strangle her. But it's like he's got, like, this is how he's strangling her. It's like, I'm like,
well, he kind of got the thumb under the thing. But no, look, AC, I was gonna let that go. I was not gonna mention it at all.
No, I actually have a note about it, so that's why I have
a note.
I was like, come on.
The one note you took. It's like the baby in American Sniper. But okay, so he strangles her
poorly,
digs up poorly. Well, poorly but effectively, buries her in the garden. And just the body of the little girl. This kind of reminds me of Alice, Sweet Alice from last time. Just the flop into the ground is like really nasty. And then he goes and the mom finds out. She's like, "What? Wait, now I've lost 2 kids on the same day." It just, you asked me who the killer is, Aaron. That was a while ago, so let's circle back around to that. I don't know who's the killer. If you say Keir Delay or Billy, I'm ending the show right now.
No. But who do we think is the killer? I think that was my question, was that we are led to believe that it is probably Francesca because she's been kidnapped and we've never seen her again. And who could it be that's connected to all of these people?
That's interesting because I never thought it was Francesca. I always thought it was the mom. Although knowing this is Giallo, that's too obvious an answer. So the mom was strangled. Now, I don't know if she hung herself or if the real killer strung her up to make it look like a suicide. So I'm left with either the dad, but he's walking around. So what's with that? What was his alibi as far as the
who do we think was doing the actual killing in this, in the truth of it?
It's got to be the dad, right? Because the brother would have only been 15.
No, I don't think it's the brother.
Do you think it's the mom and she was so overcome with guilt that she hung herself? But then she's also got this psycho son and this psycho husband.
I'm waiting for anybody else to say something.
See, I thought it was the son because the killer has always got glasses on, hiding the eyes. So it's, to me, it almost seemed like it's an obvious choice that it's Francesca has come back.
Right.
So then therefore it can't be that.
Right. And it obviously
and the fact that they
dead.
never show before you realize that she's actually dead, they never show the killer not wearing glasses. So they're hiding the eyes thinking, okay, well then the glasses are going to come off at one point and you're going to see the messed up eye. Watching it this time, because I think the last time I watched it is when it first came out. I've totally forgot about the sun popping up at the very end. So it was a nice reveal where I went, oh shit, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they pointed you in a direction you think it's going to be, and it's not only is it not what you're thinking it's going to be, it's something even different.
Brian,
and I will say, let me add one more
thing.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Complain about shitty strangling. I know this is going to sound weird for me, but you can't bury a body like a foot deep.
I mean, you can.
Her head barely went into the hole.
I know, right? It's like a bump. like
so
a
if
hill that
you're going
grows
to
over.
complain about a shitty strangle, let's talk about how to effectively bury a body.
Right?
Well,
Just
no,
saying.
look, I think he did that just like a rush job just to hide the evidence. He probably went back later at night with like a lantern and
Like unburied
redug the hole.
her, then reburied the hole, and then
Yeah,
With somebody standing over him, like going, now you got to get regulation, you
With
know.
a-
brought back like a measuring tape.
Yeah. No, another 4 inches. Oh, there you go. And you got to call Julie first. Make sure
Brings
you're
in
not
an
hitting a
auger,
pipe or
like they
something.
just-
don't be talking about another 4 inches in pipe. Again, we got Bryan
They
over
got
there.
like a
Bryan, who do you think
landscaping
is the
crew,
killer?
you know? What's that?
Who do you think is the killer?
Well, okay, so who I thought was the killer, I was kind of going along with you guys. I thought it was the mother. And then I talked to Onetti, and like his the way that he wrote it was the son that grew up because of everything that was traumatic and happened.
Mhm.
It was love for his sister, but it was also all this like just trauma basically that like led to him being the killer. And then the father and the mother were trying to basically cover their son, so
they know that he's murdering, and they're trying to keep a
cover
lid
for
on it.
him. Yeah, just kind of like, yeah. So that's why they devise, but at the same time, essentially like they hate each other,
Right.
like it's just such a crazy dynamic. And talking to him, like, and that's the thing, like I don't want to, he was like high when I was talking to him, and so was I. So it was one of those conversations where it was just like, bro, the whole family was fucked up and this and that,
Yeah, it sounds like the whole family was fucked up. Okay, so but I guess here's my problem with the little kid being the killer. He was in that pram or whatever when he was attacked, survived somehow.
Yep.
We're talking like an infant. So if Francesca's disappearance was 15 years earlier, we're looking at a kid who's 15. Now, are his parents like driving to drop him off for his kills or something? Like I just like
It's different in Italy.
Sure. But the whole thing of like, oh, there was the piano player and he was having an affair and there was a car accident, all this other stuff. Again, all of this seems, and the whole thing with Dante's Inferno, that seems just like way out of the depth of a teenager. I don't care how messed up they are. I just don't know how to quite square that unless the parents are using their son as an instrument to carry out their own plot. Like he's the muscle and they're the brains.
That's why like the visuals of Francesca as a killer looks very feminine.
Yeah,
because it was his young body,
this slender, boy. Yeah. We haven't talked about the not to take us off track here, but I think you'll like where I'm going. I
always like where you're going.
The slideshow, like that whole thing where it's all about his basically it's slide porn.
Yeah,
where you're like, okay, we've got these two women and then there's a man involved. Is that just a 15-year-old boy enjoying?
It makes more sense when you look at the perversion of that,
Yeah.
I just like that the slide was mixed in with slides of flowers.
Yeah,
kind of like, these are just my artsy flowers.
Exactly. That's a perfect cover.
It's like the 1970s slides version of hiding your.
It's like Boys Life, Time, Sports Illustrated, and then that one. Sorry, I don't know how I got in there, Mom.
That's the equivalent of taking the cover out, putting it into like a National Geographic's cover.
Yep.
Well, National Geographic. I mean, you didn't have to do a cover for any of those. Those are some saucy images in that.
And I thought that was a clever way of kind of getting the lesbian element that we often see in Giallo into it without making it overt or, bringing in a couple of extraneous characters just so we can have a lesbian scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I gotta watch this movie again. I'll probably have more theories when I do, but on first viewing, I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. I don't know if it makes sense. It sounds like the filmmakers aren't quite sure how it makes sense exactly because they were stoned, but that's fine. Okay, so
well, like that's the thing too. Like if you think about older jolly, right? Like it's not like all the filmmakers, all the storytellers, they were all concerned with like how logic actually is, right? Like when you're creating a story, like you have the basic bits that make sense, the outliers or whatever, but at the same time, it's the stuff that doesn't make sense that they didn't really put too much energy into, or whatever.
Right.
Just the overall visuals of stuff like that. I think that's also what captures the essence of Jolly.
Yep.
Too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it's kind of like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's just this crazy, messed up family, and it doesn't necessarily mean you don't need to know how they got there necessarily, which is why the Michael Bay franchise from the early 2000s is ridiculous. Not everything needs a backstory. Petty says 101 class on how to strangle with Dr. AC.
You know what? I'm signing up people right now. So
no, you're not.
Classes open in January. I'll
Nice.
see you there.
When you say strangle,
10%
we're
off
talking about
if you
mention
mention the
this
show,
ad.
10% off.
Use the promo code.
promo code Francesca. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
No,
That's great.
No, it's not about that for our YouTube overlords. It is about how to effectively grab people, as in like a marketing strategy.
That's right. That's right.
How
to get a monopoly, the strangle. I did. There was one other thing. I did take one other note, and that was that when we had our coroner report, like she's like going, and it's a female. She's like, oh man, I can see why this one would have gotten a lot of action. You know, she's a real honey.
Yeah, right?
And I'm just like, what kind of coroner is this? Oh my god.
Like at first, like I was like, so I rewatched this one again. I have the what do you call it? The book, the what do you call it? The media book that came out when it came out.
Press book?
No, like the Blu-ray that
liner
came
notes?
out, the special edition one.
Like, the booklet.
Yeah, well, it came in book form. Like it was a cardboard book thingy. Like I have it somewhere. But anyway. Anyway.
How to strangle?
I don't know where the fuck I was going.
You're being very Onetti today, Bryan. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's funny because I was concentrating on the goddamn media book. I forget where
it's
I was
called
going
media
with
book. Media book.
Yeah, it's a media book.
But you forgot what you were gonna say.
Bryan?
No, but what were we just talking about before I started going into the goddamn media book?
Strangulation.
we were talking about the saucy coroner and
that's the saucy coroner.
The saucy coroner thought that she was getting a lot of action and what a honey, and I thought that was funny that was what she was including in her report to the police detective.
Oh, okay. I don't know why that like clicked.
That was
or whatever,
close. Yeah.
So like along with John, I kind of forgot most of the beats of this movie. Because it's been so long since I've seen it. So I was watching that scene half asleep. And so when I when it like knocked me into like, like being awake or whatever, I was like, is that the killer that's saying? Like, because she was describing it like the killer would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it felt a little weird, but yeah, like, but that's what I think I really love about this movie is it feels like the flavor of how things would have been done or handled or even said back then.
Yeah.
Well, something that just occurred to me because I was looking at my notes. I'm pretty sure the killer was not the mom, because something that I'd forgotten about when the father discovers the mother out at the garden digging up the body right after he had discovered he had gone in to give her some pills and finds one in the bed and then finds a whole bunch underneath the pillow.
Yeah.
Was the dad manipulating the son to do all these things with his support possibly, but they had to sedate the mom to keep her in kind of a state of half consciousness, or I don't know, but it feels like at some point she escaped that spell by not taking the pills and realized what had been going on, and by inference they found out and they strung her up in the bathroom to shut her up. All right, hold on a second. Do we have
the Onettis on the line?
No,
awesome.
We have Mrs. Chester. Even better. Mrs. Chester. Hi, guys. Hi. Guess I'll have to watch the replay. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to you too. Mr.
Thank you for
Chester.
stopping
This is a
by,
fun
though.
one. This is a
Yes.
fun one, Mrs. Chester.
Yeah, definitely check out the movie. You can watch it on the Francesca. You can watch it on Tubi or Plex or any other places, or you can
Oh,
just buy it.
he's
I
probably
almost
saying
guarantee.
the replay. He's probably saying the replay of the show because he probably tuned in later. So I'm just
Yes,
saying this is
Yes,
a fun
and.
episode.
but I'm saying if Mrs. Chester has not watched Francesca, do
Right.
that and then come back and watch.
Oh,
And stop
hang
watching
out.
now because we're talking about the end of the
Right.
movie.
Yes, talking
especially
spoilers.
good
But
spoilers.
I think any last questions, comments, thoughts, conspiracy theories for Francesca?
I just want one correction. Earlier, I said that I think Abracadabra came after this, but it was actually What the Waters brought
Left
in.
Behind.
Oh, Left
Left
Behind. Yeah.
Behind.
That one is actually their like homage to Texas
Texas
Chainsaw
Chainsaw,
Massacre.
yeah.
And then
Wait,
they
did
went back into Giallo.
So did Abracadabra come before this then?
No,
It was
Abracadabra
one-
came after.
What
Okay,
the
because
Waters
I'm
Left
thinking
Behind.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the song Abracadabra, want to reach out and grab you. Going back to our motif,
Yep.
those Anettis
Very
are
poorly.
geniuses. What?
And actually, John, did you like Abracadabra?
Yeah, not as much as Francesca, but I did
Yeah.
like it.
I wanted to love that goddamn movie because the whole idea of like magician,
Yeah.
like magic and like Giallo was like so appealing to me. But
I did not care for what Waters Left Behind as much as these two,
yeah, same.
because it's basically torture porn
Right.
type of feel, and I think I know it was inspired by Texas Chainsaw because that's one of their Luciano's favorite film,
Yeah.
Right.
but it's kind of like what they did in here. They took the essence of what a Giallo is and made it into a film.
Mhm.
They took the violence from
Right.
Texas Chainsaw
Yep.
and made that, as opposed to what made Texas Chainsaw scary wasn't just the violence.
Absolutely. That's a great way to distill that. Also, have you seen 1978, John?
No,
Or any of you guys? No? Like,
I didn't
I
even
guess
know
I
that's
did,
it
but I
was out
don't
yet.
remember it because I was only a year old. What? Sorry.
No, I guess that's their newest one that just came out this year.
Where is it?
And
Is it
it's
streaming
getting-
anywhere yet?
I'm not sure. Like
Okay.
I was just like screwing around, like IMDbing these guys. And
I just love
oh,
these
what-
guys
what
because
is
they
it?
are such a. I mean, I know we're wrapping up here, but I mean, I can only imagine this was a low budget affair, and it really does seem like they put a lot of attention and love and care into it. And because it was a personal affair, nobody was like leaning over their shoulder going, "Hey, we got a timetable to keep to," so they could put the time and attention into the things that they wanted to and make it a really personal film. And it shows. I mean, it really feels like this is a passion project, and I love
I
their
love
stuff.
this. I fucking love this movie. I think this was
Well,
like my favorite movie when it came out, like of that year.
Well, something that you had just said, AC, struck a chord with what I was talking about earlier about how these guys, if they were in their 20s, whatever, when they made this movie, you would think, okay, we're going to make we're in our 20s, we're going to make a contemporary Giallo, man. It's going to be about people of our generation. But
Right.
no, in keeping with the authenticity of trying to make a movie that feels like it came out of the 70s, these are about adults. I
Yeah.
mean, the only kids in the movie are the little girl, the little baby, and then the 15-year-old we see at the very end. The rest of the time, it's police detectives doing detective work. It's grizzled, very people with distinct features, not the most handsome people on the planet. It just really feels kind of authentic and dare I say lived in.
That was the one thing I thought was unusual / different, because we didn't have the beautiful people that we usually see in Giallo. We didn't have like the George, anyway,
George Hilton.
Yeah, didn't have a George
Edwidge
Hilton.
Fenix.
Yeah, we didn't have like these gorgeous
Barbara
people. We
Boucher.
had people who looked like regular people, and I really
Right.
liked that. I wish actually more Giallo had that, but it was something that I did notice was different, as opposed to them going out and recruiting models. They just got some good actors.
I want to say I'm going to pat myself in the back here, and this is a testament to the education I've received from you fine folks over the years of doing this show. Aaron, when you were stumbling to find the name of the actor just
Yeah.
now, George, and I said George Hilton, I know that because I've been paying attention.
Yep.
AC was testing you.
I was going to say that
Oh,
pause was
yeah.
absolutely
That was a
deliberate.
test.
We'll be doing Pause 101 in February.
Well, I feel like I've passed. This is the semester break, so I feel like I've passed with flying colors. So
Well done.
thank you. I do want to round this out with Agitation Free says, thanks, guys. Thank
Oh,
you,
nice.
Agitation.
Thanks for
Jonas says,
watching.
happy Christmas, everybody. Happy
Thanks,
Christmas
Jonas.
to you, Jonas.
Happy Christmas.
Thanks for joining us. And everybody
Happy
out there,
Giallo Christmas.
yes. Is there a Giallo Christmas pun out there? I don't know. Have yourself a Giallo little Christmas.
If
Anyway,
so, leave it in
Giallo
the comments.
Christmas.
on the first day of Giallo Christmas, my true love gave to me, I
This
don't
is
know.
not going to go
A bottle
anywhere.
of J&B.
Jingle bells. That's what J&B stands for. Jingle bells.
There you go. Fucking
Written right
perfect.
there.
It's
Jeez.
right there.
Come on, guys. Right there.
I'm literally dizzy right now. I'm gonna lose my mind. Okay.
That's funny.
Thanks everybody
On that note.
for another great year of Accademia Giallo.
Yes.
Thank you to my lovely and talented faculty. I am the student, and someday I shall become a master like y'all. But I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have AC of Horror 101 with Dr. AC, John Kitley of Kitley's Crypt, and Bryan of the Giallo Room, Bryan Martinez. Thank you all for joining us, for having a great fun discussion of Francesca. This is a hell of a way to end the year with one of my favorite movies we've talked about this year and in quite a while. Yeah, thank you for everybody who tuned in live. And if you're watching on the replay, what should we talk about next year? I think we've got some ideas formulating, as we mentioned here on this show. But if there's any requests, do you have a request, Bryan?
Well, super quick, because I watched Last Night in Soho the other night. And I was thinking to myself, that would be considered like a Neo Giallo.
Yeah.
I would say.
I pulled up a list of Neo Giallo, and it's listed among them.
Yeah.
So.
I've only watched a half hour of that movie, so it would be a good excuse to watch the rest. All right, hold on a second. We're gonna have a final sign off. Arrivederci, ragazzi Giallo. All right.
Ragazzi.
Eddie, I thought you said these Italians are sick. Anyway, I love it. Okay, anybody. Anyway, thank you everybody out there for hanging out. We're gonna go because class is just about dismissed. But if you enjoyed this live stream, please like and subscribe, and please support all of my fearsome faculty here. Their information is down below. And until next time, whatever that is, thank you very much. Take care. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We'll be back in 2025 with something equally amazing, especially if whatever rumors I'm about to hear once we go offline are in fact true. So take care, and class dismissed.